So welcome. This is Gina from Keeler Gardens. We're here with Kath. Is it Kath or Kathleen? Which do you prefer?
Kath is fine.
Kath is fine. So it's sort of a cool name, Kath. I love it. From Longfield Gardens. And today we're going to talk all about bulbs and, other stuff too, because we talk about everything. But we'll do a quick intro. Longfield Gardens is a supplier or purveyor, however you want to, provider of bulbs and bare root also plants. And Kath has worked with in the industry in an incredible way. She was one of the beginners of gardener supply. Can you believe that? That's incredible. So she was there for most of her career, but now she works with Longfield Gardens, and she had experience with Dutch bulbs? Is that the name of it? Dutch Gardens was the name. So obviously her expertise is everywhere, but we're talking about bulbs today. So anyone who has any questions, we're going to do a little logistics first. Of course, bottom right corner, type your questions in there. There's a little slash circle. If you click on that, it gives you the opportunity to actually just choose question, and it'll type the /Q in for you. And then experiential Ed Kaplan, who is, you can tell he's over here to my right. He is our producer, our co-host, and he may join us. I'm not sure if you know this or not, Kath, but these little clapping here, this is like little yay, I like you. So when someone says something you like, you give them a little clapping hand, and then you get points for the fun of it, I guess. If anybody wants to join and be part of our conversation, we have an open seat too. So, Kath, tell us a little bit about Longfield Gardens. Tell us what their mission, tell us your mission.
All right. Well, I'm really happy to be working with them. It's a family-owned business. There are 3 partners. 2 of them are Dutch, and one is from the U.S. And the business is primarily a wholesale bulb business. So they bring bulbs from Holland to the U.S., and they're distributed to all of the Costco stores in the U.S. and Canada, as well as
wonderful
lots of other outlets. So all those great bulbs, those of you who shop at Costco, know the quality of those bulbs. Those are Longfield Garden bulbs. And so those bulbs are also available now on a direct-to-consumer website, longfield-gardens.com.
Wonderful.
And so I work primarily with the website. And mostly I'm producing content. So that's articles, and I write blog posts, and I do some videos, and write the catalog or the descriptive copy on the website, do a bunch of different stuff. So whatever, and this kind of thing.
So you're the face behind the blog and the website. It's just great because now people actually can put a face to that, to those words, and that's wonderful. What we're also trying to do through Keeler Gardens and through these blabs is we are trying to reach out to designers and small landscape designers. So it's good to know that Longfield is wholesale also.
The pricing on the website is already kind of quantity pricing. So we do sell to a lot of landscapers because the prices are really pretty good.
Wonderful. And Ed just typed the Longfield Gardens website into the comments. So if anyone's interested, you can go there. So we've got this new feature on Blab where you can type a website in, and it'll put the website in, but it's not, I don't know if you're seeing that correctly in the bottom left. That's the link to Longfield Gardens. We're seeing the information, but we're not seeing any image. So that's what that's about. And we may have some images there. And for those that watch this on the replay, that watch the recording, you may not be able to see that. Is that correct, Ed? So, but the link is on the right side. So thank you for the little rundown. We're so excited to have you here because meeting people behind websites, behind companies, behind the suppliers is really important. Oh, thanks, Cindy. Or I'm sure Longfield, thanks. Yeah, the homepage is really beautiful.
Good, thanks.
So we'll start with bulbs. And I thought maybe we would start with your coolest bulb you've ever seen, or something just extraordinary to get people interested. What's one of the most specialty things that you've come across? Even, it doesn't even have to be something that's necessarily available. I'm just curious about something extraordinary and different,
Well, I don't know. What's on my mind right now is snowdrops.
Oh, of course. Because, and you see, you guys are a little later because you're a colder zone, right?
I have wanted to have snowdrops for so long. And the thing about snowdrops that I learned from British gardening publications is that in England, they're sold what's called in the green. So in the spring, you can buy snowdrops with all their foliage on them. I don't know if they're in bloom or not, but they're called in the green. And so in the back of the British gardening catalogs or magazines, you can buy, 100 snowdrops in the green. Okay. And they send them to you. So I finally, after years of planting the bulbs, got a big pot of snowdrops from someone down the road. Okay. And now I have snowdrops and I'm so psyched. And this year they've been in bloom for a whole month because I don't know about the weather where you are, but here in Vermont, it got warm. They came out early and then it just like froze like in time. So they've been out there. And so I've gotten to know them really well.
So you found that the in the green ones, they survived, where when you planted bulbs, it didn't work as well.
Right.
Okay.
As well as the pound green. You can do the same thing with daffodils, for instance. If you want to move daffodils while they're still green on them, it's a lot easier to find them when they have their leaves on them.
Right. Yeah.
When they die back.
Right.
So they also transplant really well that way.
So I'm going to ask if anyone else is noticing we're having it's a little glitchy. The video's a little glitchy. If anyone's having any problems with the technical side, just leave a comment and then we'll refresh if there's an issue. So snowdrops are incredible because they look like these. I don't know if anyone who's watching knows snowdrops. They look like these little white umbrellas, little dangling over little white drops, almost like a lily of the valley, if you're familiar. And, but what's so amazing about them is you really have to get down and like turn them right side up, because then you look inside and you see more stuff inside, more petals on the doubles. And there's little tips of green. Wendy's gold is tipped in gold. I mean, the snowdrops are adorable. They're just adorable.
But you're totally right. It's cold and wet outside and you have to lay on your stomach to get your face
right, exactly.
This far from them because they're so intricate.
They're like the size of your fingernail. They're so small, so they really are. There's a snowdrop.
Oh, now how did that happen?
My producer is putting in pictures for me. Isn't he awesome? He finds the imagery.
Excellent. So anyway, those aren't that rare, but they are amazingly sweet. And once you have them, they multiply very easily, very readily. So
that's good to know, because
you find someone who's got them, just beg them for like
a couple bulbs,
and then you're going to be all set.
Okay, great. Good to know. A couple things about snowdrops here in our area for those who are interested in growing them. Because we're zone 5 and even in some areas a little warmer, and we've had a very mild winter and a really warm spring, nice early spring this year. The Chicago Botanic Garden, I don't know if you're familiar with it. They mark when the snowdrops appear every year on a board in the garden. And some years it's later, but usually it's as early as the end of January.
Wow.
We're seeing them pop up. And this year it was February, and it was early because it was warm. It was pleasant.
Yeah.
And you're right. If the temperature stays in the 40s and dips down to the 30s, but doesn't get above the 50s, they just sort of freeze in time because they mature so slowly because it's so cold out still. And they last for a really long time. But you need them in masses. You need them in drifts because otherwise they're literally
thousands.
You do. They're like literally this big. You get a group of 6 or 10 or 8, and this is all you're going to get is this one little section, So Ed is, look at that. See, now that's a mass of snowdrops.
That's what I'm talking about right there. Yeah. Well, the other cool thing is that as soon as they start to open, which happens like a miracle overnight, it seems, they're crammed with bees. And so
yes, exactly.
There's this thing usually that's in bloom, and the bees are out there just waiting, looking for them. And they crawl up inside, and they hang it upside down inside of those flowers.
Right. So
I love them.
Bulbs are important for the early pollinators. That's why bulb gardens are important. I'm going to tell our producer, Ed, if you could search for Wendy's Gold or Flora Plano, those two varieties, if Ed could throw some of those pictures up, they're just so unique. So this is what snowdrops look like from far away or when you walk upon them. But as we were talking about, you have to turn them around. You have to look inside the flower. So hopefully Ed will find us some images of that. What was it again? Wendy's Gold is a good one. And Floropleno is spelled Flornepleno. I'm not sure if there's any quotes in there or not, but you should be able to find them because they're very popular. Those two. Okay, Ed's going to do one more picture for snowdrops because we're gonna.
Oh,
there's a bee. Look,
that little green. You can just see the edge of the green decoration on the inner part.
Right.
But each species or each variety, excuse me, has a different kind of marking, and that's one of the things that's fun to look at when you're lying around on your stomach.
Yeah, and the leaves can be a little different. I don't think they're fragrant because they're and even if they were, they're so small and they're so far away from your face you wouldn't even know. But they're not like your spring scented ones, like your hyacinths, for example. You're not going to get anything like that.
Right.
So these are a single. The double ones have more petals, more color. And they also, depending on the cultivar or the variety, your foliage can be a little different. I saw one with really beefy leaves. It was really cool. So,
okay, that's snowdrops. We could go on for months.
Yes, exactly. Just snowdrop. So, look, and I put a Wendy's Gold link in there. That's great. So the other really early one that I love is winter aconite, Eranthus. I think their little green collars are so cute. For those who don't know winter aconite, what it is it's more like a ground cover because it's so close to the ground. It's this little yellow buttercup, and underneath the flower, it looks like a little ruffled collar of leaves, of green leaves. And it's the same thing as the snowdrops. They're tiny, but they dot the landscape. But there's no cultivars, right? It's winter aconite, Eranthus hymalis.
Yeah. Whereas snowdrops, I think, because they seem to have a lot of genetic diversity. Just like if you have a big clump of them, and you look around, kind of like a 4-leaf clover, you'll find ones that are different. And I think that, breeders, especially in England, where they're super, super culty kind of a thing, snowdrops. They've bred for these different kinds of markings. The length of the white petal changes. Okay. Sometimes the petals go like way out. Sometimes they hang down. So, but I think you're right that winter aconite is just winter aconite.
There's just the one, right? Yeah, just the one. So, there's the winter aconite. I love that plant. So, as we talk about bulbs, we'll mention cultivars and varieties, and we have some garden enthusiasts and some not so much. And what that means is it's the same plant, but if you specify the cultivar or the variety, you get a specific color or a specific a grading of color or a specific height or foliage. And we use those cultivars to create different atmospheres in our gardens. So those are the two earliest bloomers that we have. And then we move into things like the Siberian squill and the Chianodoxas and the Glory of the Snow. And there's another winter aconite. Again, these bees love this one too. So any suggestions on things like Glory of the Snow or the Pushkinia or the Scillas?
I love them all. I can all of them. I don't know if it's because I live in Zone 4 that the early bloomers are so dear to me, but I just Pushkinia. I am crazy for Pushkinia, and it does have a light fragrance. It's a little hard to find. We don't actually. Longfield doesn't offer it. But we do have Siberian squill or Scilla siberica. The
Siberian squill. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know they have so many different names. And Chinodoxa. I love Chinodoxa too.
So you say Chinodoxa. We say Chianodoxa.
Oh, you do?
And that's fine. I mean, who knows, right? But that's how I learned.
It should have a different name because it's a terrible name to try to spell.
Oh, it's horrible. Yeah, Ed's trying to spell it. Just do Glory of the Snow, Ed, and you'll find it much easier. So we were talking about cultivars before, and this is what's cool about the Glory of the Snow. So the Scillas are like little umbrellas. Again, they sort of hang down, but the Pushkinia and the Chianodoxa, they face more upward. So you can see the inside of the flower, which makes them so much more exciting. But I think it's so cool that there's a pink and a white and a blue of, so this is in my garden, actually. This is from my space. This is the pink giant Chianodoxa. Yeah.
Yeah. I have the blue ones, and there's even a couple different blue ones. There's like a blue with white in the middle, and there's a plain blue. And then the Pushkinia, I love because they're white, but they have like a tiny blue stripe.
And Ed, if you could find it on my Facebook page, that's the white and blue one that I just posted. I have Pushkinia. I believe it's Pushkinia. Yeah, because I looked at the stamens because that's how I can tell what's what. And the stamens make like a little cup in the center, and that's how I know it's Pushkinia and not the Silamish.
Well, they're on a little stem.
Yeah.
We'll see a picture.
But it's when you look at these pictures, they're striking because it's this wonderful blue tipped and the white center, on the other Glory of the Snow. And then this is my Pushkinia. Look at that white, that blue line. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. But again, they're so tiny. I have one. This is actually an accident. This was seeded from a neighbor. A neighbor planted this like 3 or 4 years ago, and she's got them dotted on her sunny side. And this just appeared in my garden this year. It seeded itself.
Well, they don't grow about this tall on a stem, and they can have more like, instead of, 4 or 5 flowers, they can have packed, 8 or 10 or something.
Look at that blue line. Isn't it fantastic? I love it. And again, when you plant them in masses, you get that blue like coursing through. Yeah. Oh, look, Pushkinia cilioides. Ed even knows how to spell the Latin. It's awesome.
All right, so we're all the way to early April.
So we'll back up a little bit because this is what's blooming now for me, and it'll be soon for you, right? The early blooming irises are fantastic. The reticulata and hydrioides, I love those. So on these guys, imagine an iris like you've seen, some similar to the bearded iris, the big tall ones that we see later on, but this big. It's so cute. They're tiny. And we planted Harmony. We mixed it with yellow crocus. And so
beautiful.
And this is a test garden, because you say how you're not sure if they'll come back. This is a rose garden, and we're going to try to water the roses locally so we don't overwater the bulbs, and we'll see what happens, but it turned out really nice, the combination. So, and we sort of skipped over the crocuses because we all love color and flowers, and crocuses are very popular. It seems like a lot of people know crocuses, but they have a range of bloom too. The earliest are the snow crocus. Crocuses. And then these are a Dutch crocus that we have that bloom later. And they're much bigger. These are like, quite substantial. And they come in all the colors that you'd expect. Thanks, Cindy. Crocuses to come in purples and yellows and whites, right? They don't come yet in pinks or reds, crocuses, not yet, right?
Oh, purple, yellow, white, and then there's a purple and white stripe.
And Pickwick. Cool. We also have Flower Record, which is more like a burgundy purple. Those are just opening up, and they're not like purple like the picture here, like a traditional purple, like a royal purple. They're like wine colored. Really neat. So we've got those mixed in. So so those are some of the early bloomers. Have I missed any of the early bloomers? Are we skipping over any?
There's the reticulata. For bulbs, I
have a list too. I have a list of all these.
Good.
So we'll move on to as the season progresses. I'm checking my notes too. So when would we expect Fumort corydalus to bloom? Is that like another few weeks ahead, or for Fumort corydalus? Is that familiar? Is that and this is a list that I have from one of the classes that I took. Great.
I don't know.
Find Fumort. He'll find it. This one is really cool. So are you familiar with windflower anemone, the anemone? Okay. So you know how the anemone foliage is like light and fluffy, and then it sort of just dies out. Right. You don't have to cut it back like a tulip. Fumort does the same thing. It's got this very parsley-like foliage. And then it's got like tubular sort of little pink or purple or even white, depending on the cultivar. I think there's white ones that dangle over the foliage. Corydalus solida. That's right. Solida. Solida. Yeah. We call it Fumort. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't grow that one. So does it bloom along with the reticulata or much after the reticulata?
Well, there's a bunch of different
corydalus. Okay. Corydalus. We'll go with that. Yeah.
But I don't know. But that there's a bunch of different cultivars, and I don't really. They're not hardy where I live. There's zone 5 and 6 and up. So I don't really have that much experience with them. We don't carry.
I don't have experience with them either. I just know that I've seen them, and they make. That's correct. Yeah, they make this wonderful ground cover because that foliage just sort of lays down and sort of hovers. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and the ones I know are
like more purple tone one. Yeah.
Right. And that blooms a little later, I think. I'm not sure.
We interplanted this with a tulip, so it bloomed first as the tulips were coming up, and they were these tall red tulips. So it covered the ground in between, sprinkled it with color, and then we got the tulips later on. Oh, that's the blue one. Yeah. Cindy, Kath is in like zone 4B, maybe 4B.
Yeah. 4B.
So, but you're Vermont, right? You're not New Hampshire, Northern Vermont. So New Hampshire could be 4B, 5A. Could be, yeah.
Yeah, especially southern New Hampshire, as you get, you're on the water part of New Hampshire.
Cindy, is that where you are in New Hampshire? I don't even know where you are. Cindy Harrison? I don't know where Cindy's at. Southern New Hampshire. Okay. Southern middle? Okay. Mid-southern. Okay, great. So
next to bloom would be
the early
daffodils,
okay.
I think.
And
so daffodils are great because they, there's so many different ones, and you can, and you need them all. But there's super early bloomers that'll be starting. They're just after the crocuses. They're super early. Like mine are in bud right now.
The smaller bulbs, like the or any size.
Well, it's funny. It doesn't really go that way. There's like full size trumpet daffodils that are super early. And then there are other ones that are, little that come really late. So there's all different ones. So on our website, we have them marked early, mid, and late, so people can know. And I think there's also an article on there about bloom times for daffodils. Because if you're going to plant daffodils, you might as well plant some from each time. So there's different bloom times. There's also different, as you said, flower sizes. So there's little teeny ones, and then there's like really big ones, and then there's different heights. So some are maybe 8 inches tall, and some are more like 24. So there's so many different ones.
I was recalling the tulip classifications, and they actually classify by time, like when they bloom. So the daffodil classifications are about their shape and size, not about their bloom time. Okay, so for those of you who
because the bloom times are all mixed up.
So for those of you who don't know daffodils terminology and details, this beautiful picture here, that center sort of trumpet in the middle, that is judged by its size. The petals, the flat petals on the back, those are judged by their size. The two together comparatively are judged. So like there's a division called Poeticus where the center is really, really flat. It's almost like a disc as opposed to a trumpet. So there's all these different classifications, and to not confuse you, just find the ones that are pretty and look at them and look and see when they bloom. See how the trumpet.
That's from their website.
Oh, this is from Longfield's website. So, and see how the petals in the background are one color versus the center. They can be the same color. There's so many different. So just go to Longfield's website and just look at the pretty pictures and click on it and see this blooms at this time, whether it's early spring, mid spring, late spring. And then you can stagger your bloom time. So you can have daffodils all the way from almost now, as you were saying, they're in bud all the way through. When's the latest? When do you think is the latest daffodil to bloom?
Right before the last.
So well into May, late May.
So
great.
Oh yeah. The Poeticus that you were talking about, most of those are really late bloomers. On the website, there's an article I just looked to check. It's what did I call it? Types of daffodils to know and grow, and it kind of goes through the different types and bloom times, stuff like that. But yeah, you can easily be a daffodil freak and grow nothing but that. I have probably I don't know, 5,000 daffodils in my yard. I started planting them 30 years ago, and they multiply. I mean, that's the other great thing about daffodils is that they multiply, and also nothing
they're deer resistant, pest resistant.
And fall resistant. Yeah. Nobody wants to eat daffodils.
That page that you found, could you copy that link and put it in the comments? Just
dropping any link here. I see
and
that
you can put it at the bottom right where it says send a message. You can put it there so it comes up in the comments so people will see it even on the replay. Let's see if that works. Oh, great. Oh, perfect. Thank you very much. So again, any favorites, any ones that you find just like unique and stunning and special, or?
Let's see. Well, there's one that comes to mind that we actually is not on the
tell us
website,
about it anyway.
But I'm still going to tell you about it. It's called albiflora. I think it's called albiflora plena, which is what you had said.
The snowdrop, similar name.
Right, but it's an heirloom daffodil. And actually, that's the latest blooming one that I know of. And it's white. Okay. It's pure white, and it has it's a double. It smells like gardenias, and it's I don't know. I first saw it growing on an island, one of the islands by Martha's Vineyard, and it was just a lot of times flowers come with memories, and so I have a wonderful memory of that day, and there were these wild white daffodils growing in the wood, like by the sea in this meadow, and so I have some of them now. They are not as winter hardy as other daffodils, and they're also a little bit finicky. Sometimes what happens is the buds don't open, and it's called blasting. And if the temperature isn't right, those aren't them either.
I found a picture, but it's I think it's a stock photo. It's a poeticus, the albiflora. The albiflora plena is a poeticus daffodil.
I think so. Oh, here's a picture of it. Yeah. Oh my goodness, they're so beautiful.
Yeah, throw the link in and we'll see if we can. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do that. It's a stock image picture, so that's not so
we apologize that we can't show you an image. But if you Flora Pleno again is Flore and Pleno is Pleno, and you've got to use the word alba in front of it, and you have to type the word daffodil in. Let's see if
that works.
I can do that. Hold on. Oh, give me 1 second here. I'm going to see if I can make this one appear for us here. Uh-oh. Okay. Did you do it, Ed?
I tried.
Nope, it's not working. All right, so you can go to that link. We just can't get it up on the screen. So that is so. Okay, if fine. You have enough quantity of these, do they actually have a scent? Like, can you walk by and smell it, or do you have to get down and smell the flower?
Oh, that's wonderful. Smell them. They're just
how fortunate. Okay, so I'm going to come to you, and I'm going to beg you for some of these bulbs.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna finish the little thing about blasting, because sometimes it happens with other daffodils is if the temperature fluctuates too much, it's either too hot or too cold or something like that, you'll get a bud, and it'll be these come actually have kind of a brown wrapper over them, and it just will stay as a bud, and it will never open. And some years that happens and I don't get any. Sometimes like 20% will open, and some years all of them will open. But it sort of adds to the
special.
The
some years are special. Them. Yeah. It sounds fantastic. They're beautiful. Right. And, people associate daffodils with that yellow, orange, that traditional, but to have an all white one is so unique, Another
really great all white one is Thalia.
Yeah.
I think that was and that's, it's a more, refined daffodil. It's a little smaller, really good for perennial gardens because it just isn't quite as, some of the daffodils are big.
Hefty, right? Yeah. One of the ones that we planted this year was one of the bulbicodium style. Yeah, they're
so
tiny,
really
and
little.
it's got like this sort of hoop skirt. You know, it looks like a little. Yeah. So I can't wait to see if those come up. That's going to be fun.
Great. And I love the doubles. There's, you know, they sometimes get kind of waterlogged, but a lot of the newer varieties in Holland, they're really breeding for stronger stems. Like the heirloom one I was talking about is often hanging down. And the breeding efforts in Holland have been to breed them stronger, so they're upward facing.
That's nice.
So if you have a lot of, you know, maybe you've moved to a place and there's a lot of daffodils already, it's worth getting some of the newer varieties because they really are quite different. The petals are a lot thicker and the flowers tend to be upward facing. So
so any like brand new one that you are like, try this one, it's brand new, we're just starting it, we want to show this one off.
Oh, let me think about that. Let's see. Well, I also really like the multi-flowered ones. There's one on the website called Beautiful Eyes. And these are a single stem with maybe 4 to 5.
I know. I have some of those. I have Cheerfulness, I think, and it's got multiple. Yeah.
I love Cheerfulness. Yeah, I love Cheerfulness. But this is kind of a different one, and it's more like a traditional daffodil. It's got a yellow or a orange cup and white.
There it is. That is wonderful.
They're super cute, and they also smell really good.
How tall do those get? Yeah. Like, is it one of the 8 inches? Or is it a little bit bigger?
I think those are. Let's see. I don't remember all these
beautiful
things.
eyes. I can see why it's called that. Okay,
it's just 10 inches tall. So I've really become a big fan of the smaller daffodils. The big ones I tend to keep out in the meadow, but the smaller ones are a size that you can still have in a flower bed.
They don't just take over.
And
Now, you mentioned about moving bulbs. I actually have a question about that because I planted some that Cheerfulness, those beautiful multi, and the neighboring shrub is getting too big. So now my daffodils are growing into the neighboring shrub. When should I right after they bloom, let them bloom and get some sun and then move them? That's the best time.
Yeah, you know, daffodils are so darn tough. I have them in my perennial beds, and over the years I've been trying to get them out of my perennial beds because they multiply and then their foliage is all over everybody. So anytime I go to plant something, I'm always digging up a daffodil bulb. And so I always have a couple kind of tubs filled with daffodil bulbs. And by the time fall comes, I just pitch them in the tub all summer long. And by the time fall comes, it's full overflowing with bulbs. In the beginning of the season, I throw them in there and they got their foliage on them. Later in the season, when I'm digging them up and the foliage is gone, just the bulbs go in. It doesn't seem to matter. They just come back. So what I would do if I was you was I would probably let them bloom so you can enjoy the flowers. Cut the flowers off, and then I would dig them up right away because you got to go deep to get the bulbs usually. And then it's easier I think right after they bloom, the foliage is still well attached to the bulb. If you wait and let the foliage start to wither, when you're digging it out, if you're pulling on the foliage to help get the bulb out, it just pulls right out, and then you have to go looking for wherever that bulb is. So I think it's way easier to do it while they're nice and green, right after they bloom, and then put them in the ground where you want them with their foliage, which is going to be floppy. But leave it on because that'll help feed the bulb.
Now, of course, we are taught over and over and over again to plant your bulbs about 3 times they're 3 times as deep as they are. Yep. Is it true, because this is what we've been told, that you plant them 3 times as deep, but as they root, the roots sort of pull them down even further and they nestle down even further into the ground?
You know, I found that for daffodils, let's just talk about daffodils, because I don't know about many other ones, but daffodils, 2 things. One is they do pull themselves down because I have fortunately I have a bank near my perennial garden, and it's still on my property. But when I have things that I don't want, they go over the bank. So sometimes I don't make it over to the thing that holds all the daffodils, so I just pitch them. So over the years, they land on big piles of old grass out there. They find their way to the soil and they pull themselves down. You want like a slow motion camera to see this happening. I don't know how it works, but they pull themselves down, and now the whole bank is covered with daffodils, and I didn't do anything. So the other thing, though, that they also push themselves up. And I think that maybe that's less about what the daffodil's doing, but that the frost action of the soil, because how it pushes stones up over time, I think it's pushing the daffodils, because where I've had daffodils that they've been there for a long time, if I try to dig them up, they're just, they're not very deep. And, but they don't seem to care.
They're happy. Who cares, right? Yeah. So, okay. Well, thanks for that little educational aside, because I'm going to do that when we're going to let these guys bloom, and then we'll move them over. We're going to cluster them. They're too dispersed. There's like one there and one there. We're going to bring them all together and make a nice patch in the bed. So we've talked all about daffodils. Oh, the one thing we didn't talk about was the reflexed ones, the ones that the cyclamen. Is that what this? Cyclaminius, yeah.
Yes,
So on your traditional daffodil, you have that center cup and then the petals in the background. Well, on the cyclaminius, the petals in the back, they're like windswept. It's like the plant is like running through the air, and then those petals are. There's one I think called Jetfire or something like that, and it actually looks like it's got this tail of petals.
We have
it's really
Jetfire.
cool.
I'm just looking for that.
No idea how to spell that. Just type in Jetfire daffodil and see if it comes up.
We actually have it on the website. Cool. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there it is.
Found it. Everybody just found it. Yay. Yeah, it's got it.
Can you find it?
He's awesome. I'm so lucky to have a second in command. Yeah,
faster on the clicker.
So see how I don't know if you guys can see it from this angle, but the one in the top right corner, see how that yellow petal is literally like completely back, flying backwards. It's just they're just so they have such a dynamic feel to them, such a movement to them with the windswept look. It's pretty cool. And there's a baby one, a miniature. They're named after someone, like it's not Van Hefty or it's not it's Rip Van Winkle or something like that. And they're a little miniature, and they also have that well reflex. And so different classifications of daffodils have these different features. So you need to go to the Longfield website and you need to look at all of the daffodils and see all the different kinds of daffodils.
And actually, I mentioned that all the fall planted bulbs, all of the daffodils and tulips and all that stuff will be available for sale in about 2 weeks.
Wow!
We won't ship them to you. You can't get them till fall, but you can order yours if you want. So you don't forget which ones you wanted. But right now, if you go to the website, it shows sold out. But
okay, great, good to know.
You'll be able to. Because it's a handy thing to be able to, when you're out looking around at stuff when it's in bloom, to be able to order it.
It's so interesting because we talk about planning our bulb gardens now because you can see the bulbs. And when it's time to plant them in the fall, we're not thinking about spring bulbs. So you got to do it now and make your lists and be prepared. There's another one that I would suggest if anyone's interested. It's called the Pasque flower. It's it's like Pasquarella. The Latin is, I don't remember the Latin.
I have had it. It's a zone 5. It hasn't.
Does Longfield carry that one? Because I have, it's not a common one. It's not really readily available.
It's an anemone type of one.
And it will be hardy in zone 5. And it's got this like sort of downy, hairy covering on it. And no,
not that one. Let's see.
That looks more like Lenten rose, like hellebore.
I got it randomly off the internet.
Oh, is that the Pasque flower too? It has to be correct. Pasque.
Pulsatilla vulgaris.
Pulsatilla. Try that. Pustilla. Oh, PUL. Pulsatilla. Pulsatilla. I'm so sorry. I'm going to type it in so that I get it right.
Pulsatilla vulgaris.
Oh my goodness. Vulgaris. I'm typing Ed. Ed types so much faster than I do. That's why. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to put it into the. There it is. Look how smart she is. Oh, so maybe that picture is. I'm not used to seeing them. I'm used to seeing them when they first emerge in this sort of like downy coat. Because I don't actually grow them. I've only seen them a handful of times.
Oh yeah, I've had them. They're really cool.
Would they be around this time or maybe a little later? A little later.
They're
called the Passflower because they're supposed to be blooming around Easter, but Easter was early. See the downy coat of it? The whole plant is covered in this little sort of peach fuzz. I love it. It's so cool. So, and this is somewhat unique and different, and again, not as readily available, but it's an interesting one. So we've talked about the early blooming daffodils. Now, we have the early blooming tulips. The leaves are showing. The foliage is showing. What's the earliest tulip? What do you think is the earliest one? Because I know it's some of the.
The earliest are usually the
emperors.
Emperors. And they have really, really big flowers.
They have short stems.
Well, there's
a lot. Kinds,
lots of different tulips. So the kind I'm thinking of, the ones that are commonly available that we sell. There are wild tulips that are tiny and kind of ephemeral, and they bloom early, and we don't have those. There also are
Kaufmannianas are one of the ones that I know. Yeah, and the Greggii too. There's a little later.
And we have some Greggii, yep. And then are the for the bigger tulips that are more what people expect. The emperors or Fusteriana, are they're also called emperors. So they have a really big flower. Like the flowers are, I don't know.
They're huge.
They're big.
Yeah.
And they also, as they mature, they open out and they can be like this. It doesn't even look like a tulip. So they start like this, and then they're kind of like this. They're really cool. And almost at the same time are the early double tulips. And those are also really showy. One of my favorites is called Mancella. It's a color that I wouldn't normally pick. It's red and yellow stripe. But there's something about just, having that color all year, and then crazy things that are striped.
We've used the term double a lot, and I'm not sure that our viewers will know that term. What double means is where you'd expect to see 5 or 6 petals on a flower, double means you'd have twice as many or 3 times as many. And so it's almost like the difference between a wild rose that has 5 petals and the hybrid roses that are have the traditional rose that we're used to seeing in a dozen. What happens, same thing happens with daffodils, and here's the tulip. This is a double. This is a tulip, and you'd expect to have 5, 6 petals, but this one's got 3 times that, I would say, or more, and that's called a double, and that's what that means. So is this the one that you mentioned?
Yeah, that's Mancella.
That is,
it's crazy,
incredible. So you're right.
It's a really good one to have in your front yard because people just, and they're also quite large. When they, not as big as a peony, but they're also sometimes called peony flowered ones, and they, as they mature, they also open way out, and they're super, and they're shorter than they're usually about a foot
so
tall,
it's so
maybe.
Some of these are so interesting. You get this enormous bulb like this, this flower, and the stem's like this tall, and the leaves are wide out. It's it's really interesting. So this is does Longfield do combinations too? Do you do like prepackaged combinations? So if you want specific colors or a specific combination, you don't have to worry about choosing the combination, because Longfield will make the combinations for you, and that way you have the ease of ordering multi-type in one package.
Right, because it can be a little confusing.
So daunting.
Which ones bloom when? But it's also neat. One thing we've been experimenting with. We have a big test garden in New Jersey, and try to grow most of the bulbs that we sell, both spring and summer blooming. Is experimenting with planting tulips of 2 different heights together. And so that's a kind of a neat look in itself. So even if you don't know what your tulips are going to do, you're probably going to come up with a pretty nice look that you're happy with, because they may bloom at the same time, different heights, but they also may bloom, what was I going to say? They might bloom at different times, which is nice too, because it extends the show. So one will bloom, and then when that's starting to fade, the other one comes. So it's nice to have a bunch of different varieties. And they, the funny thing about tulips, they all look good together. It doesn't even seem like purple and red. You wouldn't think you would never do that, but they look really amazing.
We have an accidental situation. So we rescue bulbs. Again, for those who don't know bulbs, sometimes hybrid bulbs, the cultivars, the very cultivated breeded ones, they don't always survive year after year after year. And so for display gardens, for show, will replant every year to make sure that they have the same good show every year. So when the bulbs come out in the fall for the new bulbs to go in, or at the end of the spring, we would collect those bulbs and we would just throw them around our trees. So we have this random collection of bulbs. And what happened was, over the course of 3 or 4 years, we had the collection that you see here. And for those of you who are watching the replay, it's just a mix of reds and yellows. And then several years later, we got another grouping of purples and pinks that we staggered further away from the tree. Well, they bloom at different times. So the display starts out yellow and red as the purple ones are coming up. And then as the red and yellows fade, all the purples start to open. So it's a complete change in color over the course of several weeks. And it was accidental because we just happened to be planting 2 separate groups of bulbs. So what you can create with timing and height and shape and color, it's fantastic. You can have bulbs for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's wonderful. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Definitely at least a month or 5 weeks.
It's incredible. And so the tulips they're well used, but they're almost underrated in their flexibility,
I think they're way underused. What you sort of talked about, the longevity of a tulip bulb, and it's there again. It really depends on a couple factors. One factor is just the type of bulb that it is. Some bulbs are more tend to come back year after year more than others. Darwin hybrids are tend to be a really big bulb, and they tend to stay together. What happens with and come back. So if you want your tulips to return, Darwin hybrids are the one to go with. What happens with bulbs, and the reason they don't come back, is that usually if people's soil is too wet in the summer. Tulips originated in Asia in the really high dry mountains, and they like hot soil in the summer. So it's hot and dry. And I don't know about you, but where I live, the soil's never hot and it's never dry. What happens to tulip bulbs is that they, if they don't get those growing conditions, they split. And so what will happen is if you dig down, the bulb will still be there, but oftentimes the bulb, instead of being whole like it was when you planted it, it'll be in 2 parts or 3 parts. None of those parts would have enough energy to produce a full-size flower. But if you have your tulips in a really well-drained place and they're super happy, you leave the foliage there, they don't get too wet. A lot of people, they'll say, oh, I've had my tulips. They come back every year. They've been coming back for 10 years. And so great, good for you. But if you don't know for sure that you've got those growing conditions, or you want to just experiment, and plus, there's so many great tulips. How could you just have the same ones every year?
Again, that accidental, the picture here below, there's the purple ones blooming. I think that we're fortunate because in that space, the tree just sucks up all the water. There's no extra water there at all. So that's one way to handle it. Because we do have other areas where we have tulips that, one section that isn't as sunny and can be a little damper, a little more damp. Those didn't last as well, but we're fortunate. See, our clay soil is very interesting. People complain about clay soil, and there are complaints. But one thing that we do have that clay soil does allow for is it does control water. Now not in masses. I mean, when we have terrible storms, things get waterlogged, water runs everywhere. But over the course of, long, slow rains, all that water trickles through, and then the clay holds on to it and it never lets it go, but it's not excessive. So we actually have good luck with our clay, and we do amend for certain reasons, but in this case, we didn't have to do anything, and they just were fantastic on their own. Cindy had another question here. So they need a sunnier location and less water. Tulips do need a sunny location. Yes. Now, remember in the spring when trees are not leafing out yet, and especially trees that leaf out late, you can have a really sunny location through the course of the growing time of a bulb when the leaves are out, when it needs to collect sun. And then as that tree leaves out, if it creates a little shade after the bulb, after you've already removed the dead leaves, as long as it's dry and warm, you don't have to have direct sun on them. It has to do with the leaves of the tulips needing sun to replenish that bulb and regrow that bulb so that they can be there for next year. So don't cut your leaves down too soon. This has been a controversy. When I was studying, there was all these things about what we should do with the leaves because they get so messy and they're so heavy. You got to sort of just wait it out and let those leaves, as long as they're green, suck up as much sun, as much energy as they can to regrow that bulb underneath. So.
And I'll just add that if you don't want to do that, which in some beds, I don't like to do that because I have other stuff that's coming and I don't like to look at that yellow foliage. In that case, I pull them out and then I get to try new bulbs. And honestly, 100 tulips gives me so much pleasure. It's really not a big hardship. And I could give the bulbs to you.
You can just put them in a big box and I'll take them. That'd be fantastic. Ship them over. Yeah. If you got anything you want to trial, any, 2,000 bulbs you want me to throw in my garden, I'll make space. No worries. Cindy, you said that you never cut the leaves down. No, you shouldn't cut the leaves down.
No.
If a bulb doesn't produce a flower the following year, should I dig them up and throw them away? No, actually, I personally wouldn't. I wouldn't even waste the time. If a bulb isn't producing, leave it. It may come back, it may not, but who cares? You can plant something over it. If you want to plant something in that spot and you dig it up, great. What's happening with its producing leaves, is this correct, Kath, that it's trying to produce the leaves to gain the energy to recreate the bulb, and eventually it could flower again?
It could. I mean, most of the tulip bulbs come from Holland, and the soil there it's a sand.
Right.
It's a sandy place. And so it's super, super well drained. And in the summer, it gets very hot and dry. And in the spring, it's wet. It rains all the time. It's really ugly all the time. But it makes the tulips last for a long time. So what's happening there is, and a lot of people don't realize that it takes, I think it's like as long as 5 years to get a tulip to blooming size.
Yeah.
So you grow them out in the fields as these little tulips, and then each year they actually have these machines that they run through the fields and they cut off all the flowers so that the energy goes back into the bulb. All the green leaves are making food, storing it in the bulb. The next year the bulb gets bigger, has a little bit bigger flower, but they cut those flowers off too. And so that continues until it's able to produce a really big bulb, a really big flower. And so when you buy tulips, you do want to, this is true for all bulbs, but especially for tulips, you want to buy good quality tulips that are nice big bulbs. And bulbs are graded in Holland by their size. And the bigger the bulb, honestly, the bigger the flower you're going to get.
Produces. Exactly.
I mean, some types of tulips have, like those little ones you were talking about, they naturally have a smaller bulb, but it's the biggest bulb that tulip makes. But when you buy like a Darwin hybrid tulip, those are really big, fat bulbs. And you might see tulips for sale at, a grocery store or corner market or something like that. If they're, it's hard until you kind of get used to what size they ought to be. I guess.
Right.
But if you get them from Longfield, you'll notice they're really big.
You have a wonderful picture on your website. There's a comparative image of a small bulb versus a big bulb, and then what the flower that it produces will look like. And so you have to decide from a grower, from a gardener's perspective in your own garden, do you want to have to plant twice as many bulbs because you want a more coverage and a bigger show, or do you want to use the higher quality Longfield bulbs that are big and are going to produce these really showy, show stoppers for your garden? So if you go to their website, you can see that image, and you can see how the health of the bulb and the root makes a difference in how the plant grows. So,
well, the thing about bulbs is that the bulb is just a food storage vehicle. So the bigger the bulb, the more food there is in there for the plant to use to grow. So it just makes total
bulbs
sense.
Are different in their growing. Again, our viewers might not know this, where your standard perennial plant takes sun and nutrients from the soil and creates every year. The bulb is what's producing your plant. So if the bulb isn't sound, just because you give it more water or more sunlight doesn't mean it's going to grow any better or faster. The bulb has to be sound to produce the size flower that you're looking for. Whereas with like roses, as they emerge and as they bud, you could feed them in the present season, and that'll produce more flowers, and that'll produce, where bulbs, it's what they do the previous summer and how they grow into that size. That's what they're going to show you next spring. So it's a little more, it's just a little deeper information. So a little more information.
Well, we did this thing with amaryllis this year, another type of bulb.
Thanks, Cindy.
Indoors. And we cut them in half. And it's super cool that if you have one you want to sacrifice, cut it in half, and you can see that inside the bulb is all the flower parts, just small. So inside of a tulip bulb, it's the same thing. You got the whole tulip. It's just down inside of there.
That's amazing. It's pretty cool. Right. Yeah. So, okay. So we're coming almost upon the 1 o'clock hour. We always go through an hour so quickly. So what we usually do at this time is offer up questions. And Cindy, I hope we've answered your questions, and we don't have any other questions. So we don't have to worry about that so much. But I did want to briefly mention that there are bulbs that you plant in the fall that bloom in the spring, but Longfield also offers bulbs that you can plant like now and later on that will bloom later, right? And some are perennial and some are annual. Is that how it works?
So there's the bulbs that bloom in spring that we just spent time talking about are all fall planted. And that's the only time of the year you can plant them. That's the only time you'll ever find them. So write down the ones you like, order them, and plant them in the fall. And you can plant any time before the ground freezes. Late fall is good once the ground is nice and cool. But now, or as soon as the last frost is gone, is the time to plant summer blooming bulbs. These are tropical bulbs: dahlias, glads, elephant ears, canna lilies, eucalyptus, all kinds of things like that. These are bulbs that they're not frost hardy, or they're not as hardy as tulips and daffodils. So in zones, I have heard that in zone 7, dahlias will overwinter. And you were saying that you had a eucalyptus, a pineapple lily that overwintered in zone 6. So, it kind of depends on the microclimate where you are, but mostly these are heat-loving bulbs or tubers, which are corms. We just put them under the headline of bulbs. But those get planted in the spring, and they will bloom in the summer. And the nice thing about these bulbs, these summer blooming bulbs, is they really come on in August, and they keep going into September and even into October. And so where your other perennials in your garden and the annuals too, by that time have really kind of tired out, these guys are really coming on. And so it's a really good way to have color in your yard and garden.
And I also heard that with these kinds of tropical bulbs that you can start them indoors sooner.
I just planted last weekend 50 dahlias in pot, so that I can put them in
Exactly.
The plants will be probably this tall. Because we have
right. We did last year. We put at the end of May, we put brand new dahlias in. They were only like, just this big, and we didn't have blooms until late July. So although you're right, they carry the end of your season. We were so excited. We wanted them to bloom sooner. So we suggest maybe starting them indoors, and they're very easy. They don't need much because they're quote unquote bulbs, they have all that energy already there. They need very little care just to get started. And then of course, once they're emerging, then you take greater care.
Another trick is that a lot of these summer bulbs are really good in pots.
Right.
And if you grow them in containers, you can get an earlier start. Plus the soil stays warmer because it's in a container.
So I'll mention a couple other unique ones. Camassia is one that works really well for us in Zone 5 because it likes water. It can be waterlogged, and it's okay with that. And that one's pretty cool. And then I really want to mention the foxtail lily because it's enormous. It can get like 6 feet tall, and it blooms in the summer. It's a summer bloomer. So now, are both of those planted also in the spring, or those are spring planted too?
I know that
the camassia might be a fall planter. I'm not sure about that one.
Whether the camassia is, let's see. I think
I don't remember either.
It blooms in late spring.
Camassia is probably fall planted. But I'm almost positive that the foxtail lily you can plant in the spring, and it is fantastic. I really want to get that one because that's just I want to get just 5 of them and just put them in one little cluster right at the base of the pergola. Oh, you're awesome.
That was a really, really big hint.
Wow. I didn't even mean it that way. That's awesome. You took it that way. That's great. That's a
I know. I know what you're talking about.
We were going to get them in a previous year, and they're hard to. We found that they were hard to find. We found that because they're just not as common, and because of the time of ordering, it was odd. So it's called the foxtail lily. I don't know if you can find it. Don't worry about it. It's a huge, incredible bloomer. It's amazing. So, and then 2 other ones. The fall blooming colchicums. Those are cool.
Oh,
and those will provide you with a beautiful, almost crocus-like, a little like a crocus, but they bloom in the fall.
Except
they're much bigger. They're hefty. Yeah. Their leaves are huge in the spring. You have to have a space for them, but they fill up all that empty space in the spring. And then your perennials come for the summer, and then they go away, and then they send up a flower in the fall, which is so cool. No leaves. It's amazing. Resurrection.
And you have you have to be looking for them because it's way after anything else has bloomed. I have them in my shade garden, and I think every year I'm out there doing something. I'm like, oh, right.
Yeah. So I want to put them on top of the ajuga or on top of the low growing sedums. Yeah. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of different ones. And the thing about them, it's a little tricky, is that you have to plant them in August. Okay. That's when they're available. And because they're going to bloom right away. And then they bloom right away. Cool. That's a cool thing. But if you see them in bloom, you probably can't buy them anymore until the next year. So again, it's the kind of thing you gotta remember.
And then the resurrection lily will do that too. It'll bloom up leaves, and then it'll send up a tall lily-like flower. That's beautiful. Another fall one, Nectoscardotum. Am I saying that right? That one's really cool. The Sicilian honey garlic, I think, is what the common name is for.
Yeah, but that's actually a spring blooming one.
Maybe I got it wrong.
I have that. It used to be I'm trying to think. We don't have that on the website, so I'm trying to remember. The name of it changed recently.
Yeah, you know what? I'll have to check on that one because
it used to be Allium bulgaricum, and now it's called Allium. Or no, it's not even an Allium. It's called Nectoscordum. But I have a bunch of those in my garden, and they bloom a little after the tulips.
I must have had it wrong.
Around anytime. They're so really cool. I love
Sicilian
them.
honey garlic, if you can find it, Ed.
Oh, I'll give you a link.
Look at that. I'm going to check my notes too, because I took some notes on that one because I saw it in a garden and I just loved it so much. I want to recall what I wrote about it. So so those are some of the unique ones. And then the pagoda trout lily, that's pretty cool. So we're just randomly telling you cool bulbs because it's fun, you know.
If you run out of bulbs to get.
Okay, here's my notes on this one. I'm going to read this. Yep, June and July. That's when this blooms. So it's the end. It's not fall. It's the end of the bulb season, you know. But that's great because it's the end of the bulb season. All your bulbs are.
But they're so cool because they come out. So they have a little sheath on them, and they come out, and then the flowers dangle. While they're in bloom, the flowers dangle. Then when the flowers are pollinated, one by one, they go up.
Okay.
So the rest of the guys are dangling. And then when they all have been pollinated, then they're all standing up like this.
So amazing.
It's
so dynamic.
Really cool. But the thing about them that is a little tricky is that they have really lax habit. So their stems are not
beautiful.
Oh, there they are.
Thank you for finding that, Ed. I love that.
It's kind of like
umbrella-y kind of thing.
And they dangle down, and the bees love them. But the stems are kind of thin, and if you're really into order and you like your stuff to be straight, you're not
they're like loose and flowing.
They tend to like lay out where the lawnmower goes by, you know. And
brilliant. Yeah.
I lose many every year.
Maybe in the fall I'll plant some of these because those are fantastic. They're so unique. They're so different, you know, from anything we've seen. So.
They're very oniony. They have a very strong smell when you run over them.
Because hence the allium family, originally from the allium genus, right?
Right. And we didn't get to talk about alliums.
I know.
2015 is the year of the allium, and we are we're doing a bunch of stuff with allium this spring and in the fall. We have just watch our website and the blog, and we have a bunch of new articles about it. And a really cool allium garden that we had a garden designer in Ohio design for us.
So there's a picture of an allium. For those of you who can't see the pictures on the replay, I don't know if you've ever heard them called koosh balls. They look like koosh balls. They're these they're these big globes of flowers. They're just fantastic. And there's different ones. They come up at different times, and there's a unique allium called Molly, which is a yellow one that blooms in June. And then there's a summer blooming, and then there's the earlier blooming. And there's one that actually looks
There's some fall blooming ones.
And there's a drumstick one. It actually looks like a drumstick.
That's in the upper left.
It has like sort of a more oval shape to it. Hey, Bill, how you doing? So we've touched on a lot of bulbs, and we focused on the early spring ones because that's what we're talking about right now. Maybe we'll have you back later on, like later in the summer, and we'll talk about some of those summer bulbs. You know, some of those, dahlias. Oh, we could talk about dahlias forever. Dahlias. Yeah, we could spend an hour just on dahlias, you know? So thank you so much for joining, Bill. Bill, we'll stay on. We're going to stop the recording shortly, but we'll stay on and answer any additional questions. For anyone who has questions for Kath directly, please find her at longfieldgardens.com. They also have their own profile here on Blab. I'm not sure how active we're all going to be, but we'll see. They have a Twitter account, and they do Instagram also, so you can find them in all those places. And Facebook, of course. That sort of goes without saying now, but okay, Facebook too. Yeah. And Kath writes the blog. She does the website for Longfield. So questions, ideas, call her, email, direct message, find her on the website, and you can find us, Keeler Gardens. It's the same handle, GG Keeler G, on Instagram and on Twitter. I'm Gina Iliopoulos on Facebook. And there's also a Pinterest account for Longfield Gardens. There you can see in the comments. Find us everywhere. Please ask us questions. Send us emails. Send us notes. We love to see you. Follow us. And we'll have Kath back again soon. Thank you so much for joining us. It was really, really great to have you. So that will wrap up our bulb discussion, and I'm going to stop the recording now. Thanks, everybody.